there's no such thing as competition really in this space right now, because as you say, it's so nascent, it's so new. You know, think of how many pubs there used to be at the height of the population of the popularity of drinking. You couldn't walk 3 streets without walking into 4 pubs. Do you know what I mean? I just want to see us get off the start that way. Sorry, go on.
So I think my town have the most amount of pubs and chip shops per capita in the
Wow. Well, again, and I want to see in a lot of ways these come back. I mean, I quite often pitch. I mean, let me know what you think of this idea. I've said it a few times on the podcast, but I think pubs should become multi-drug consumption rooms. So on a Friday.
That's what they were.
Oh, we know they are. You know, anybody with any experience knows that they are. But I mean, in the sense that, say, just Friday, Saturday, they're alcohol. Do you know what I mean? Maybe we can talk about cocaine and other drugs slightly later down the line. But that Monday to Friday, Thursday, the way to generate that revenue and use that space that already has toilets, often food facilities, pool tables, jukeboxes, dartboards, all the facilities you'd kind of want to put in a cannabis club. Do you know what I mean? And most of them often have good extraction, so you could use these spaces.
It's a really good point, because I've mentioned to Liam a few times when we go to Barcelona and when I've been to Amsterdam, smoking weed for me is just, I do that anyway. Okay, I am going to do it. If I go to a place to smoke weed, i.e. a cannabis club in Barcelona, I've had one joint, and then I'll force another joint down me, which I wouldn't normally do, but that's because I'm in this place where everyone else is smoking. But that's it. I don't want anything else. Obviously, if you're going out to have a drink, I know there's people who don't drink, and I know I might not drink as responsibly as I should do. So, you know, drink responsibly, folks. But if I'm going to have a drink, at least I can keep on drinking. You know, with cannabis, 2 joints, and I smoke big joints. Very big joints. So really, I'm done after 2 joints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, it's horses for courses, and I think this is what I'm not going to name the club, because obviously there is a potential crackdown looming, and the new vice mayor wants to obliterate. What did he say? I think obliterate was the word he used. He wants to decimate and get rid of all of the cannabis clubs in Barcelona. There is some of the clubs that are now going like, oh, they've got a functional cocktail bar. So there is alcohol plus cannabis in the same club.
And we went to one last year. We're probably talking about the same one. It was amazing. And that was my point. To have just smoking could be a bit restrictive, especially for someone like me. We need to have drinking, music, definitely food. Definitely food.
I mean, it's funny you say that about pubs, actually, right? So at the minute in Manchester, there's the guy he's our nighttime star, Sasha Lord. He runs Warehouse Projects, and
I've been trying to get him on the podcast. I've been messed up.
Oh, nice, right? So, well, I mean, he's a complete teetotaler and doesn't touch anything, I believe. But he's an interesting guy. I mean, some strong opinions about him in Manchester. Some mostly positive, and quite a few that seem to think he's ruining the nightlife. I disagree, but that's beside the point. Anyway, he's on a bit of a mission now as the nighttime czar of Greater Manchester to save hospitality. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I kind of dropped a few comments underneath, like, why don't you just like legalise weed or decriminalise it? Because, you know, I mean, like you say, pubs could just have a weed room at the back, you know, or allow it across the whole venue, depending on how their clientele, you know, sees it and what their optics and preferences are. But equally, like, you know, Manchester, it always pops to mind when people talk about, like, you know, how the UK could allow adults to consume cannabis responsibly and safely. And I think, you know, like going to Manchester Northern Quarter, you know, you've got trendy cocktail bars. We've got like loads of these ones that are like speakeasy style, like one that's disguised as a pawn shop, and one that's behind like you go through into a laundrette and through like a fake, you know, kind of laundromat. But, you know, using that British, very uniquely, I think, British creativity that we have to create cannabis consumption clubs that are, you know, they're not just, you know, kind of like a disused cafeteria, you know, that could be like really cozy, really comfy, really trendy, really interesting, as you say, have like, you know, kind of food and cocktails and smoothies and just more, you know, like not just, this isn't just a place to get weed, but a place to come, enjoy cannabis, spend like your afternoon or your evening. And I think the Brits could do something like absolutely in that space. I think we could lead the world, because we create, you know, I've been around lots of places and we have some of the coolest bars in this country, you know, like real innovation and creativity with great vibes and thought behind like the cocktail menus and the decor, and generally, you know, like people trying to create an experience as you walk in. Like, just apply cannabis to that mentality. Man, we'd do something amazing in this country, but
100%. I mean, the way if somebody like, I don't know, Starmer wins the next election and he has one of those like fucking Dickensian dreams and he's like, 3 ghosts visited me and talked about weed and fucking hell. And he rings us up and he goes, Simpa, what am I doing? Obviously, if I go like ideals, we can't get through that because we have to deal with the political public. I couldn't just flip the switch as much as I'd want to. I'd be like, all right, what we're going to do is select several cities around the country. Offhand, I'd go pick a couple of boroughs in London. We'll go somewhere in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, somewhere in like the northeast and the southwest. Just kind of pilot projects. Like I said, convert some disused pubs and spaces and run them at different scales. One of them is purely just a cannabis club. One's a multi-use space. One's a this. Do you know what I mean? And accrue that data through research and development, which could be done through licensing under the Home Office. Under the current legislation, we could go do exactly what has happened in Bern in Switzerland, what's about to happen in Tilburg and Breda, I tripped over my own tongue there, in Amsterdam, these research projects. So there is a means by which we could then accrue this data to prove that model. And like I said, once we can prove that, all right, we had 10,000 people consume cannabis over 6 months, actually violence went down within a 2-mile radius. The chip shop within fucking a mile that went through the roof. McDonald's profits went through the roof or whatever. And we could see that physical data. That's the issue that we've got, is all the data and everything that we're proving at the minute is just going to help support GW's 186 patents. And they're just one of like 23, 24. I'm trying to read that list. Like 24, 25 major global pharmaceutical players. Like names you haven't even heard of, names I can't fucking pronounce. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just crazy companies that they've sat for 30, 40, 50 years in some cases, holding patents for cannabinoids and for cannabinoid delivery systems. So we almost need these grassroots things because, like you say, Manchester does it differently. What would emerge in Manchester would be different to what Durham would do, would be different to what Glasgow does, would be different to what Portsmouth does,
It's involved as well, though. They invented doing things differently.
Yeah, let the scouts out of that. They'd be well upset.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean? Like the flavor would be different. Whereas if we go down corporate legalization, all we're going to have is Starbucks and McDonald's. And the same import American cardboard terps, and it wouldn't have cultural vibes. You would literally just the same standard menu. It wouldn't celebrate local talent and flavor and really put money back into those local areas. So instead of it just going, everyone's going to go to London because that's where the trendy weed is, or everyone's going to go here, and it puts it back into the local area because you can grow the best of weed anywhere with the right environment, the right setup. You could be growing weed better than California in fucking, where's close to you guys, like Buxton or somewhere like that, in the clay, where they used to have all the clay and all that industrialness.
I've seen, it's probably the best weed I've seen in the world, all grown in Derbyshire.
There you go.
But yeah, and that's my point. And they could do that outside of every city. It doesn't need these huge logistics and all this huge other proliferal industry. If we let the people free and all of us suddenly like, we can do these things, it would naturally, organically evolve in the same way that your media company has. And I think it could regenerate in communities, like we say, by helping landlords by filling all these spaces. People, instead of spending their money with Albanians, which, they're basically general attitude is, I think it's 60-40 or 70-30 goes home. The majority of money leaves. And it's the same with the corporate big boys. When Trueleaf and Curaleaf come and set up physical locations here, where do we think all that money's going to go? Whereas you boys set up a spot, you're going to live nearby. You're going to spend it in Tesco and whatever else. It's going to continue to stay in the local economy. It's not just going to fuck off to the Caymans.